Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another 80-Bit Newscast! We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game news show running you guys through this past week's news in the video game industry as we care about the stuff that, if we went through everything, we wouldn't have enough time. This is a half-hour long news show where we just quickly blitz through some of the cool things that are going on in the industry this week that we care about. And with that, you can hang out with us, give us your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, and ideas, but wait until the end before we respond to them. Do it now, all throughout the show. Do whatever you got to do, but leave your questions for the end, the last 5 minutes or so. We will then circle back around and address those, and we'll answer them as much as we can. Keep us honest, correct us if we say something silly, and that is the gist of our show. Would you like to do some of the housekeeping, Penguin?
What? No, because I don't know what.
No. Well, the only housekeeping there is that we have a website, 80bitpodsmash.com, where you can find links to all of our social media outlets and podcast platforms. I said podcast, yes. We have a weekly video game podcast that goes live at midnight on every single Monday, and we just launched an episode about new IP versus existing franchises. It's a great discussion, so go check that out. If you are watching live on YouTube, if you're not watching live and you're on YouTube, come over to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash. Subscribe to us there so you can be made aware of when we go live, because we go live every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern and every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And Wednesday night is our gameplay live stream where Penguin and Termite, that's you and me, we do this. We go back and forth, playing whatever game we're digging. We just played Oddworld last week. I think Penguin had a good time with that, maybe not. And I will be continuing my Turok 2 playthrough as I'm having a blast, and I'm getting a lot of audience engagement out of it. So it's rewarding. So that's what I'll be playing this Wednesday. So come join us, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Cool. What I can do is go over the highlights. Sorry, you put me on the spot, and then I just panicked. So you did a great job. So tonight, the news stories that we're going to cover, we're going to be talking about Jason Schreier's latest expose. Who's his most recent takedown? It's maybe someone you wouldn't expect. We're going to talk about another delay, and we're not going to spend much time on it. We're just going to say the facts and then move on, because we're sick of talking about delays, because it's the obvious news. We're going to talk about a new Battle Royale game from an IP that you may not expect as well, so that's interesting. We're going to be talking about a adaptive difficulty system and what that means that's been patented by EA. We're going to talk about a game that's gone gold, and we're going to talk about E3. So those are the things that we're going to be covering today, the various announcements that we're going to be covering, just to give you a little taste, a little tease. So again, as Termite said, don't be shy. Please drop your comments, thoughts, whatever's. Troll us. We want to be trolled.
We can be
And
heckled.
we will read them at the end of our show. So without further ado, let us jump into our first story about Jason Schreier's latest expose on none other than
Bloomberg.
Sony.
And it's against Sony. That's right.
Yeah.
Sony's obsession with blockbusters is stirring unrest within the PlayStation empire. A small team had big ambitions for a Last of Us remake, but Sony handed the work to star studio Naughty Dog. There's a little bit of context and background that we have to face or kind of shape here, which Jason does wonderfully over at Bloomberg.com. So go check out this article. Give him the link, because we're basically just repeating what he's saying. So Sony Corp's Visual Arts Service Group has long been the unsung hero of many hit PlayStation video games. The San Diego-based operation helps finish off games designed at other Sony-owned studios with animation, art, or other content development. But about 3 years ago, a handful of influential figures within the Visual Arts Service Group decided they wanted to have more creative control and lead game direction rather than being supporting actors on popular titles such as Spider-Man and Uncharted. So, the leader, Michael Mumbauer, took over direction and recruited about 30 developers from neighboring game studios with an idea of being able to work on a remake of The Last of Us for PlayStation 5, which they started. And this was their way of like, we're going to make this game and we're going to make a statement for ourselves.
Taking control, and trying to, be like, we're a team, we've been working together for a while, we think we can do this, and we want to prove ourselves to our superiors.
Sony responded to all of that. Rather than acknowledging the team's existence, or give them any funding, which they didn't do. Sony moved ownership of The Last of Us remake to its original creator, Naughty Dog. So they took that project from them and said, nope, Naughty Dog gets it. So this team, of course, being deflated, and everyone kind of left. Leadership was largely disbanded, and yeah, so Sony did that. And I don't really know where they went or what they did, and that's not really detailed here.
Yeah.
But so what this does highlight is there anything you want to talk about that before we move on to what this means or implications?
Well, before we talk about implications, in addition to this, the article, we are not going to read the article word for word, or else it would take up more than our entire show. But in addition, the article mentions how Sony Bend, the developers of most recently Days Gone, I don't know what they did before, although it may be worth doing, once I get around to playing Days Gone, it might be worth doing a dev profile on them, especially because I feel sympathetic for them after this news, which is, he goes on to talk about how the sources within Sony Bend have told him that they basically pitched Days Gone 2 to Sony, and Sony struck it down and forced them to work on something else, presumably to work with Naughty Dog on a Uncharted sequel. So there's a lot to unpack though, but it's that. So what I want to highlight real quick before we jump into that is, this is all coming on like the heels of the dissolution of Sony Japan as well, the Sony Japan studio. That is slowly, they've had several leaders within Sony Japan studio leave, and the team it's been announced that it's being restructured on Team Asobi, which is the ones who made Astrobot and Astro's Playroom. So that's three major... Well, I shouldn't say major. That's three minor studios. Three kind of better known... Well, one not so better known, and then two better known studios that work on more... That are known for working on more experimental IPs that have suddenly been shut down and shot down by Sony. So now, I want to hear, Termite, I want to hear your non-fanboy, critical opinion on this. Because, you know, there's multiple things going on here, and I will also give my open-ended opinion as well. But I want to hear yours first. What are your thoughts on this story?
Sony has, no joke, seen an amazing success with some of these bigger titles, especially last year alone with just Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, and the list goes on prior to that with Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man, etc., etc., etc. So there's no doubt that the AAA giant cinematic experience set-piece games that are high-budget, extremely expensive, are doing well and making money and getting attention. And they're getting retention among hardware buyers because they're flocking to their PlayStations to get access to those games because they're exclusive to PlayStation. And so we've seen, though, Sony kind of fumble this ball. They have been handed an amazing, glorious, golden, shiny football for this next generation. And they started off on the right foot by making the statement, we believe in separate generations. And then quickly backpedaled to everything's cross-gen, and there's like nothing that's exclusive to PlayStation 5 except for Astro's Playroom and like Demon Souls. Everything else is kind of cross-platform, and there might be one or two titles that I'm missing there, but none of consequence. So we're seeing...
Until Rift Apart, until Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, Returnal, and they're just coming out at the end of this month, and then Ratchet and Clank quickly thereafter. But that's far cry from this massive split, this massive rift in generations that they were claiming to have. They never have.
And it's definitely affected, like, the... I would say it's affected the general critical opinion. I wouldn't say it hasn't affected sales, but it's definitely affected the general critical opinion of the PlayStation 5. A lot of people... I've seen a lot more articles coming out these days saying things like, why do I have a PS5 but I don't feel like playing it anymore because there's nothing motivating me to play it, which is supposed to be their thing. They're supposed to be their thing is this generational gap. But sorry, go on. Golden football.
You're good. Yeah, that's what they've been handed. And then we also see all these amazing games coming out from the indie studios that are kind of AA from the Japan studios conglomerate umbrella that are all now being consolidated into one because they're chasing after what Astro's Playroom's success was. And so all this consolidation is happening everywhere, and including this, where Days Gone 1, which was very rocky out the gate, and early development codes were sent to reviewers, and it was a horrible mess until they patched it and cleaned it up. Maybe it didn't do so well. Maybe a Days Gone 2 wasn't worth the risk for Sony. So they just moved them onto an Uncharted multiplayer game, or I'm sorry, helped Naughty with a multiplayer game, while a second group was assigned to work on a new Uncharted game. Again, very safe choices, very predictable choices. So they're not taking risks. They're super buttoned up all the time. They're not forward facing. There's no face of PlayStation that everybody knows. There's no Phil Spencer at PlayStation. They're not consumer friendly at all when it comes to how available are PlayStation 5s? Is there backwards compatibility? The PS Vita, the PS3, and PSP stores are shutting down right now, and everyone that has any care for that is crying out with some sort of surprise celebration, something from Sony, a sale, nothing. It's dead, and they're just burying it, and they're walking away, leaving all of the fans behind, and not even celebrating the content at these consoles. So all of that is the big context of, like, Sony. In general, do they have a great platform? Absolutely. Are these games going to be amazing? Of course. But look at what Microsoft is doing. They are super consumer friendly. They are like all about coming out with the best deals, expanding their player base. Everyone gets everything. The backwards compatibility is seamless. It works. There's none of this like upload your save from a PS4 version and then go to the PS5 version and download the save, and like it doesn't work, so you got to delete everything and reinstall, and like, none of this crap. Like it just works. It's super consumer friendly. So rewind all the way back to Mark Cerny's talk last year at GDC, or what was left of it from COVID, and he talked about how it was super developer friendly. The platform itself, the hardware, the science, and the tech behind it all was very developer friendly. We want to enable developers to make their dreams come true on our platform because this is the easiest platform to develop for and to deploy and utilize really good technology. That might still be true, but and the idea makes sense. If you enable the developers, they're going to make the best stuff. It kind of does line up with this AAA space, these big, expensive set-piece experiences that we're going to be getting from Sony. So there's all of my opinions and kind of like fleshing out the context here. Sony is quickly losing foot in this generation to Xbox. Microsoft is crushing it right now.
It was supposed to be kind of like, okay, here was Xbox's approach that is super consumer-friendly, and here is Sony's approach that is supposed to be super developer friendly because the platform itself lends to that. And even if that, like you said, even if that's still true in regards to the platform, it's not reflective. Clearly it's not reflective. If this stuff is true, if this expose, if it's not, overblown or anything like that, then that's not reflective in their company culture. Like, you can't say on the one hand, we're super developer friendly, and then crush the dreams of 3 development studios all at once. Like, that's insane. It's super developer friendly to enable developers to make the games they want. I've seen people comparing Days Gone, the possibility of Days Gone 2, to like Assassin's Creed. They said Assassin's Creed 1 was a janky, junky mess too that didn't review well at its time, and yet they came out with Assassin's Creed 2 next, refining, iterating, and taking the lessons they learned. Sony Ben's not going to have that. Presumably, Sony Ben's not going to have that opportunity anymore. Similarly, like you have this up-and-coming studio that wanted to do something that was arguably incredibly safe, which is to do a remake. They're not even designing the game from the ground up. They're taking a game that's already been designed under modern gaming design principles, and they just wanted to pretty it up, which is what their entire design studio does, the visual arts group or whatever. And Sony shut them down and gave the project to Naughty Dog, which is like, why not let Naughty Dog also make what they want to make? Why force Naughty Dog to use resources when you had another development studio that was willing to do the work and would probably do it fine? Not just fine, probably do it well, and give them a chance to cut their teeth on game development instead of just working on other people's stuff. And then finally, you have Japan Studio. Astro's Playroom and Astro's Astrobot Rescue Bot are great games, I'm sure. Or I'm sure I know, at least with Playroom. But so was Bloodborne, so was Shadows of the Colossus, so was so many of the games that Japan Studio has released over the years. It doesn't make sense to me that like they're doing this. So I also understand we're only getting one side of the story. Sony hasn't like come out and said these things. And like you said, this has not completely disillusioned me on Sony, but it definitely is like, it's concerning because God of War once was a risk. Uncharted was once a risk. The Last of Us was once a risk. These big, huge Sony games, even Astro's Playroom and Astrobot Rescue, like those were risks. Like you can't say that you're developer friendly and then don't allow developers to make risks that could result in better games for you. You have to allow those mid-range studios to play, and if they fail, that's okay. You can stomach the losses, Sony, or maybe they can't. And if they can't, then that speaks to a bigger problem within their company, right? So, anyways, that's my thoughts on it. I'm critical of it, but at the same time, I also understand we are only really seeing one side of the story. And at the end of the day, it's still PlayStation. They're still going to release good stuff. It's just disappointing to see them stifle creativity like that. It always ruffles my feathers when people do that. So.
And still a good thing for them. Shuhei Yoshida, he might be the one person that's a little bit close to like a Phil Spencer in Xbox world, but he's the head of the indie studios and like everything indie related. He's done awesome things out there, bringing all these great indie titles to us. I think a lot of what we're seeing in the PlayStation Plus world, like Marquette last month, is a result of his work and what he's doing to shine light on these smaller type games that are really good. And so kudos to him for doing that. So that not all hope is lost. And if the other side of the story would be if you were Sony looking at this looking at the visual arts group that's never touched an Uncharted game trying to remake the original Uncharted, and then you look at Naughty Dog who's willing to remake Uncharted, you're going to go with Naughty Dog because they made the game. It wasn't
Uncharted,
right?
It was Last of Us.
I'm sorry, Last of Us. Thank you. The
fine.
original
That's
Last
fine.
of Us. I totally meant. I was thinking of Joel in my head as I said that. Yeah. So like you have the Last of Us Part 1, and you have the studio that made it who wants to remake it, and you have a new studio who wants to remake it. You're gonna go with the studio who made it. There's gonna be less risk. It's quicker turnaround. It's people who worked on the game before. They own the assets. There's less collaboration. Just do it, right? So it makes sense that they would do that.
If it was me, I'd say no, Naughty Dog. You go make the next great thing and stop wasting resources.
Yeah, and that's
do a remake. That's me. That's just me though. I'm not.
And that's a viable plan. Like that makes sense.
Multi-billion-dollar international corporation. So yeah, okay, all right. I can't really talk.
So like you said, there's two sides to all the stories, and we don't really know all of the decisions. All we see is what is in this article that makes sense to us, and we can tie it with other behaviors that Sony has that seem disjointed as far as like generational gaps, that seem disjointed as like Uncharted or Astro's Playroom celebrated all things PlayStation, but that's just one title from one developer that's doing that when there's no celebration of PlayStation message coming from Sony at all as a cohesive unit, like across all their platforms with nothing. And they're just not publicly facing very well. So all of this kind of makes sense to tie it in a bow and move on. I'm not surprised when I read this. I was like, "Yep, that's."
I'm not surprised. I'm a little disappointed.
Sony.
I think is what it is. Some of Jason Schreier's other exposés have like revealed deeper cuts and deeper wounds than this. It still is just kind of like, come on, Sony, get it together. Like, don't screw up in the 11th hour. You know what I mean? Like, don't screw up. Just like I want to continue to be excited about PS5. I don't want to flirt with Xbox. I don't want to flirt with PC gaming. I want to be pure and save myself for Sony.
You called me the fanboy here?
But anyways, yeah.
This is what you need right here if you want to be a pure Sony fanboy. It's a dead platform. I'm so mad. I'm so mad that store's shutting down. Ugh. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on. Yep, we're 20 minutes in, so we got a bunch of other news stories to cover in 10 minutes. So sorry about that, guys.
Sony doesn't care about this console anyway. Deathloop is being delayed. Deathloop delayed September. Delayed. So according to Nicole Carpenter over at Polygon, Arcane Lions, Deathloop has been delayed till September 14th. The studio announced Thursday the game was originally slated for May 21st, following its first delay. So this is the second. The game director said, "We've made the decision to delay the launch of Deathloop to September 14th, 2021. We're committed to quality, preserving our team's ambitions for Deathloop while ensuring the health and safety of everyone at Arcane." So translate, we're not crunching, and we want to make a good game, so thank you, Cyberpunk, and thank you, COVID. We'll be using this extra time to accomplish our goal, create a fun, stylish, mind-bending player experience. And so that was some of my injections to
invested.
A quote. But
yeah, I'm not invested, so cool. Yay, it got delayed.
Nothing in 2021 is safe. Nothing, unless you have it in your hand. Returnal is supposed to come out in 2 weeks. I don't believe it. It's going to get delayed.
Who knows? Yeah. Same with Neir Replicant, but whatever. That story. Let's go ahead and just skip ahead to that story since I've not brought it up. Neir Replicant's gone gold.
Yay! Maybe. Because even Cyberpunk went gold before it was delayed anyway.
Right, yeah. So gold just means that it's...
Got me all fired up now, pissed off.
Yeah, gold, just for those who are uninitiated, gold means that the disc has been sent off to the code has been sent off to the manufacturers to start printing on discs, basically. But it doesn't mean it's done. It doesn't mean it's done. It just means that they've sent a version off to get printed on discs or whatever. So it could, like you said, it could still get delayed. But it's a good sign that it might not be. For those who are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I'm going to get it right away, but I want to play it at some point, like Nier Automata. So
it's coming out April 23rd, 1 week from Friday.
Cool. All right. Next is a new Battle Royale game has been announced in the franchise of Pac-Man. A Pac-Man Battle Royale game.
And it's on the Switch, so it's exclusively for Switch Online. So this is a third game in like a series of this kind of trend that we're seeing. It started with Tetris 99 and moved on to Super Mario Bros. 35. Now it's Pac-Man 99, a new multiplayer game that'll be included with the Nintendo Switch Online, so it's free. It looks similar to the classic arcade original Pac-Man, but you can make it more difficult for opponents by munching on power pellets, eating ghosts, and sending, quote, Jammer Pac-Man over to their screens. There are 8 different preset strategies you can use to screw with other players, for example, speeding up their game. And the article I just read was from The Verge by Sam Byford, so go give him the click. It's out now, and I don't think it came out April 7th, and it's free for anyone with the Nintendo Switch Online subscription. So if you're into this and you liked Tetris 99, you liked Mario 35, maybe you'll like Pac-Man 99. It's free. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Well, it's the cost of a subscription.
Right. Which you're going to get anyway because of Super Nintendo. So duh. It's free.
Duh. Yeah. Another subscription service that I pay for and don't do anything with.
It's $20 a year.
It's $20 I could spend towards Taco Bell 4 times in the year.
Once a quarter. Okay.
All right.
Let's talk about EA's patent to develop an adaptive difficulty system. This comes by way... I know, it sounds crazy. It comes by way of IGN, Matt Purslow. So the original article goes like this. EA has developed an adaptive difficulty system that dynamically adjusts how difficult the game is. But, as also revealed by the patent application, the system does this with an aim to keep players active for longer periods of time. So, of course, it's not just about the game. It's about keeping you attached. As noted by OP Attack, that's why I said that, the patent, which was filed in October last year and published at the end of March 2021, describes a system that can perform automatic granular adjustments to a game in order to change the difficulty of the experience. Similar systems have been used by Resident Evil 4 and Left 4 Dead, in which a system monitors player performance and uses the data to inform enemy behavior. However, EA seems to have an additional or perhaps even alternative motive beyond just aiding players overcome a game's difficulty curve. As outlined in the abstract patent, the system can review historical user activity data with respect to one or more video games to generate a game retention prediction model. This model is then used to predict how long the user is expected to play for. Using this prediction, the dynamic difficulty system can calibrate the challenge to make sure you play for that duration. That sounds so nefarious. It sounds so
like someone
scummy.
Pitched a good idea, like, hey, what if we had an adaptive difficulty system that, I don't know, like, you didn't have to change the difficulty manually. It just, like, picked up how you were playing and, like, automatically adjusted it. And someone's like, but how can we make money off of it?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It reminds me of the boardroom meme where it's like the guy asks the question and, 2 people answer, kind of like exactly like what you're saying is like, oh yeah, it can make us so much money. Yeah, did this. And then the one guy answers like, well, like, could we just do it to make it easier for the players so that they enjoy the experience more? And he gets thrown out the window. It's that meme.
It's exactly
that meme.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. The idea is still a good idea. It could still be really beneficial for the technology could still be used for good, so to speak, but I don't trust it in EA's hands. That sucks so much.
I didn't realize there was scalable difficulty happening in Resident Evil 4 as I've been playing through
either.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Left 4 Dead, I kind of got a feel for, because I feel like you would do really well and then you would just get destroyed, and the stuff that would seem random would like happen to just be coincidentally terrible for you whenever you're doing really well. And now I understand after reading this that it was because of a scalable difficulty. Who knew? But apparently there was an update to this article on the 9th. IGN now understands that the recently published patent from EA is not a new design. It's a resubmission of a patent first filed in 2016. The new submission details the same system as the one in 2016, suggesting EA has not changed its software approach for dynamic difficulty systems since that first filing, but simply wishes to maintain it. So apparently this is not super new, and there's this entire lawsuit that happened with EA using FIFA, Madden, and NHL systems to, like, people were thinking they were using dynamic difficulty to change
microtransactions.
multiplayer aspects, and like almost like pay to win, but on the computer side, you just like, what am I playing? Anyway, it was all decline. It was all like EA won all that stuff. They weren't using this dynamic difficulty adjustments in any of their multiplayer sports games.
The company that can afford to pay tons and an army of lawyers to defend them in court won that surprise court case. Who's surprised? And who's not legally required to disclose any of their games codes or anything like that would prove in court that they are manipulating it. Somehow I'm not necessarily inclined to side with the massive corporation with a history of predatory practices, but that's just me.
Yeah, who knows? I'm gonna trust the
I just wouldn't
due
put it past
diligence
them.
there.
I'm not saying, I'm not accusing them of anything. I'm just saying, EA, if any company was to be like, we can't do loot boxes anymore, so let's find another way to secretly manipulate people into paying more money, it would be EA.
It would, of all the people, it would be EA. Yes, it would.
Gosh.
They're easy to beat up on. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas, corrections, dump them in chat now.
Forever hold your peace.
And we will address them for the next 5 minutes or so. So the last news
with one
article.
more story.
Do it. What is it? What's going on? Tell me.
E3 is back, baby. At least in digital form. E3 is happening in digital form this year. Officially, I thought we already knew that, but whatever. I guess there's something else to this.
Well, last year it was canceled, so it didn't happen at all, and we were left with what was the summer.
Didn't we already know that E3 was already happening? Wasn't that announced like?
It was announced
ago?
last year. Like when they canceled it, it was like the week after they canceled it. They said, well, it is happening in 2021, and everyone scoffed and said, you wish COVID's a thing, and we're not going to have E3. But they never said digital until now. So this is the official declaration of a digital event among the same date range. And we also have some more details about what it's going to be and what's going on around it.
Who's supporting it is more important.
Exactly. But last year we had this whole Summer Games Fest from Jeff Keighley, but we also had IGN's like Summer of Games, and it was like announcement after announcement for 3 months, and it was ridiculous and crazy, and we were exhausted and trying to cover all these things. It inspired this news show because there's so much to talk about every week. We were tired of filling up our podcast with news, and so here we are. Hopefully it'll be a little less. It'll be consolidated into the 3 days of ESA's E3. ESA is the Entertainment Software Association, and they announced June 12th through June 15th they are holding their annual E3 digital showcase. Here are the people that are involved: Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, which is put a thumb on Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Bros, and Koch Media, which will show some of the content as part of E3. But what will those media presentations look like? What does it mean for E3? Is it back for good? And who knows? Lots of questions. Konami is noteworthy because they've kind of fallen off the games entirely, like video games, since Kojima left. They haven't really put anything out there except for like some collections of like Contra and Castlevania and such. And they shifted focus to like gambling machines in Japan. So what do they have to show? That's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's intriguing as well. So the article goes on to say that like a lot of companies have decided to do their own digital events throughout the summer as well, so it's not completely like it's not going to be all completely contained to those 3 days. Obviously PlayStation, Sony has been not a fan of E3 for years, even before COVID, so they're of course going to probably be doing their own things. So it's not going to be all entirely contained, but it'll at least be a lot of the announcements contained in that kind of 3 day span. I'm just excited about the biggest things I'm excited about are the fact that we're going to get another proper Nintendo Direct. All eyes could be back on E3 if they reveal the next Zelda game. Like if that happens, then it'll be like E3 is back. Like E3 is once again hype central. But there's also going to be a I guess this isn't confirmed, but they said expect Square Enix presents Bandai Namco next, which Elden Ring. So we'll see what other events happen either on the same weekend or around it. It should still be a pretty big day, so to speak, for gaming. But
and usually Bethesda has their own showcase, and they had like that whole like map that one year, and they had like a carnival one year, and so like Bethesda's usually they have a good show, a good presentation that lasts. But now it's part of Microsoft.
Now it's tied to Microsoft. It's still going to be its own separate thing, though, according to what this article said. So, but still, it's exciting. We have mixed feelings. I know you and I both have mixed feelings on E3. I wouldn't necessarily hate to see it go away entirely. But not having had it last year did feel a little weird. So we'll see how it goes this year.
Yeah.
But
I just really hope that the Summer Games Fest that Jeff Keighley gets to do, which he's already announced he is doing, is a much smaller, concise, maybe a week or two at most.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get this E3, and that's it. Because last summer was so much. So much.
Yeah, it was intense. Yeah.
I was like at night laying in my bed watching Twitch. Jeff Keighley had a live Q&A about like the developers. I don't even remember the specifics anymore, which shows you how much retention I had. Like, and here I am staying up late on a weeknight. And
I just remember still clamoring for any little nugget of like PlayStation news because the PS5, like this time a year ago, we still didn't know jack crap about the PS5.
We didn't know anything about it. Yep.
We didn't know anything until like September, what it looked like, how much it would cost. We're having those discussions constantly, and I'm thinking back to last summer, and I'm like, yeah, I was just like, hey, when's PlayStation gonna do a thing? Still nothing. Come on. Yeah, it's crazy. But all right, well, I think that's it. There's no comments in the chat, so I think we can move on to our own business for the evening and let our listeners, viewers, carry on with their business for the evening. So, Termite, can you remind everybody where they can push the buttons to subscribe to see more of our content?
Go to 80bitpodsmash.com, where there are links to all of our social media outlets, and notably our YouTube channel. You can go there, hit the subscribe bell on YouTube, and be made alert and alive and well that we are alive and well. I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't know about well.
Be made aware of our comings and goings when we post videos. We post our weekly live streams and our new shows to YouTube. So if you miss us here at twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, you can find us on YouTube. But we would rather have you here in our chat talking to us and asking us about things and correcting us and heckling and trolling us.
About our ugly faces.
So
and,
go to...
We got a zit today, Tank Penguin, and it's the worst. Use some like drying oil on it or whatever. Cream.
Didn't notice till you called attention to it, but now that you did, you can go to twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash and you can find us there. Subscribe to us there as well and jump in, be part of the fun, hang out with us. Turok 2 on Wednesday. It's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. See you next week. Later this week.
Bye.
See you later.